You've seen acrylic paint pours on YouTube, but something's been keeping you from trying one. I'm going to walk you through your first acrylic paint pour, and we'll do it dirt cheap. Let's go. Huh? First thing we're going to do is head into the Dollar Tree. We're going to pick us up 2 white tubes of paint. We're going to get us a blue. I'm just going to pick a color, blue. Then we're going to get us some white glue, kind of similar to the glue you use in school. Get us some of these magnet thingies here. And then we are going to pick us out a little canvas. You can get a bigger one if you'd like. The bigger canvases are like $3. We got to get some cups. And we need some trash bags. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is lay out our trash bag for our work surface. And it's also going to double as something else, which you'll see in a future video. Basically, all the stuff that drips off the side of your canvas will end up on this trash bag. And when it dries, it becomes what they call a skin. And that skin can be used for other artistic purposes. Super cool. Alright, so here is our work surface. It's not exactly perfect. Try to get it flat, if you know what I mean. Try to get it kind of flat so that when you make when it drips off the edges, it's going to have somewhat of a flat surface to land on. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is mix the paints. And what we're going to do, it's probably got a seal on the inside of it. We got to open up. Yes, it does. We're going to pour about half of this cup full of white paint. We're going to do another one. And ultimately, I could have gotten just a bigger cup, but I wanted to save on a little bit of money for this particular video and save you some money so you don't have to spend so much on your first try. So we're filling each of these cups half full of white paint. Then we're going to fill the next cup after I take off my little seal here. We're going to go halfway up the cup with some blue. Okay. And set that aside. Then we're going to go the rest of the way up the cup. Not fully full, but, you know, close to the top, so that when you stir it, you'll have a little bit of space at the top so you don't make a big mess. Now what's happening here is this glue is acting as what they call a pouring agent, or a pouring medium is what they're calling it. What it does is it stretches the use of the color that you're using without thinning it to the point where it's going to crack when it dries. And it's actually transparent in nature, even though it looks white. So when we go to mix this, it's not going to mix as if it would lighten it. Now I'm going to use like a popsicle stick type of a stirring situation. But you can use a spoon or whatever you got around the house, around the kitchen. You want to stir it as thoroughly as you can so that the glue mixes real nicely with it, and you have it, you want it to be mixed in thoroughly, basically, so that it doesn't have thin and thick spots. So basically on your next one, if you're going to try it again, I would suggest using a bigger cup for this, for the white portion, or whatever your base color is going to be, so that you don't have to mess around with small cups. Because this is a little bit tight. of a workspace here in this stirring situation. Okay, now I'm going to stir my other. I believe this is my white. I hope it is. Tee-hee, I should have kept better track. But I'm wild and crazy like this. So, you know. Alright, we're going to stir this as good as we can right here. Give it a couple minutes worth of stir so that it's nice and properly mixed. Now this is awful thick even yet, and the glue is supposed to give it somewhat of a pouring ability. So what we may end up doing is putting a little bit of water in it, but you don't want a whole lot of water because that'll thin it to the point where it cracks real bad when it's drying. I'm going to wipe off this white paint, and we will stir the blue next. Now what you'll find is you would think that because the ink is white colored that it would lighten the color of the blue, but it actually doesn't, because it's actually transparent in nature. And if you ever looked at glue after it's dried, this white kind of glue, you would see that it actually dries transparent. Now we want to look at the consistency. Actually, that's not real bad the way it's pouring. That's actually pretty darn good. So we might be pretty close to where we want to be already without putting water in it. And that's good because water thins the paint in such a way that it's not too cool. Okay, so I'm going to open up my canvas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these magnet things that we bought. I'm going to set them out here because we want to put a little space between the surface of your table and the canvas so that you can get your fingers underneath it. Because we're going to pick this thing up and move it around a little bit after you get the paint poured. Alright, now we need one more cup. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our next cup and we're going to pour a layer of white into here. Just a little layer of it. Set that aside. Then we're going to pour a little blue in here. Oh, poop. That's all right. Okay, and then a little bit more white on top of that. I could have got it from the other white. I should have probably. I will go back to the other white. So I'm making some fun mistakes here as we go. Okay, and we're basically going to layer these colors up so that when we go to do, what we're doing here is called a flip cup technique. And what's going to happen is we're going to put our base color of white down to cover the canvas, and then we're going to flip the canvas. Well, we're going to put the cup down and we're going to flip it. I'll show you. We'll get there in a second. So we're putting more blue on top of the white. A little more white on top of that one. Okay. Now we made a boo-boo with our blue here, or I did at least. I'm going to kind of flatten that out some. If you have any trouble like that, then just do that. Okay, then we're going to pour a bunch of the white right down the middle. Actually, it'd be good to kind of spread it out a little bit, but make a big glob of it. I'm going to do the same with the other cup of white, because we want to use all that white. Yay, we have some happy accidents here. Then we're going to take our cup of colors here. What we could do is actually spread that around a little bit the canvas by tipping it. We're already going to get some cool action out of the paint that I've spilled. That's kind of cool. Not intended, but kind of cool. This is super thick, but hopefully when we get a little bit more paint on it, it will do its job. Okay, so I'm going to take this cup and I'm going to flip it right here in the middle. And then we're going to kind of let it set for a second. And then what we're going to do is kind of tip the edges up. And the intention here is to allow the layers of colors to kind of creep up under the white layer. You can see that happening here already. Oh yeah. And then I'm going to go ahead and lift the cup up. So we have this cool glob of action. And then we're just going to kind of rotate that around on the canvas. It's already making some pretty cool design activity. It kind of has a marbling effect to it. And we'll basically end up covering the boo-boo spill that I made earlier, which is great. And when you do this, you want to try to cover all the edges. And actually have it spilling off the edges. It could have stood to be a little bit thinner so that it would come off the edges a little faster and actually move around the canvas faster. Because basically right now we're kind of taking a little longer than what I had really intended to do, but that's okay. We'll just hang out together, you know what I mean? Yeah. Making some cool colors already. Now the intention here is that the drippings on the sides will actually cover the sides in a cool pattern as well. So you want to try to make it come off the edges evenly if you can. And it probably would have been a little bit easier if it was a little bit thinner. So maybe a tiny little bit of water would have been good. But that's okay. You got time to hang out? Alright. So I'm letting this drip off the edges. And see how that edge right there has a cool marbling effect right there? That's pretty neat. That's pretty much the intention of the whole deal. It's cool when the sides have a cool marbling action that looks like it's a continuation of what's going on the surface. So that's pretty neat. So this is kind of dragging time here, but that's okay. Kind of a neat design we have already. This is kind of funny, I'll mention it. Just about every canvas painting I've done has a, when I show it on Facebook, somebody says, there's a scary face in it. There's a Grim Reaper in it. Now, here's what you can do to kind of help further extend the situation and make it go a little quicker. You can actually dab your thumb across there, and you don't want to do it all across the thing, but that will flatten out and still create a cool design where your thumb has been on the edges here. So like, you can come across here like this and kind of help it along to, you don't want to do it across the whole thing, just on the corners that have not been covered yet. This edge is looking pretty darn good. We'll just hit a couple spots that have not been covered yet. That's looking pretty good. Got a little bit over here. you can actually take some out of your drippings to kind of make it look nicer. And I just got some on my arm. That's really cool. And the places that your thumbs are going, I mean the places that you're gripping it underneath on the sides, are actually, that paint will settle and it'll look decent anyways. So we want to kind of cover those edges that have not received any paint yet. Okay, so we got some cool edges here. Okay, I gotta get more on this corner. That's looking pretty neat. I'm going to set it back down on our magnets. We'll get a little close-up on the canvas. It's pretty neato for our first try. Really cool marbling effect. Alrighty, so that'll conclude this particular paint job that we're doing. And we'll do something a little cooler next time. I got something planned. Alrighty, hope you had a good time, and I will talk to you soon. Alrighty, bye-bye.